Do you have good habits? Do you have some that you'd rather get rid of? What if I told you that by developing one key skill, you'll be able to adopt better habits and let go of unhelpful ones? In this week's episode, we're going to talk about the one meta habit you need to develop in order to make real changes in your life. Hello, friends. My name is Eric Cloward, and welcome to the Stoic Coffee Break. The Stoic Coffee Break is a weekly podcast where I take aspects of Stoicism and do my best to break them down to the most important points. I also pull from ancient wisdom as well as modern wisdom and psychology and neuroscience, anything that I can find that can help you to think better. Because when you think better, you live better. This week's episode is called The Meta Habit, the one skill for building better habits. I will form good habits and become their slave. Mandino. We are creatures of habit. From the moment we wake up until we go to sleep, we follow patterns, most of which happen without conscious thought. We brush our teeth, we check our phones, take the same route to work, reach for snacks when stressed. These habits either move us forward to the life that we want or keep us stuck where we are. But here's the challenge. Developing good habits is hard, and breaking bad habits is even harder. So what if I told you that there is one master skill that makes all the other habit changes possible? One key that unlocks your ability to build both better patterns and release the ones holding you back. That skill is self-awareness. As Socrates said, an unexamined life is not worth living. Without self-awareness, you're living reactively, responding to circumstances, other people's expectations, and unconscious impulses. You become a passenger in your own life. Self-awareness is what I call the meta habit. It's the habit that makes all other habits possible. You can't change what you don't see. You can't understand what drives a behavior until you examine it. And you can't create lasting change without knowing yourself deeply enough to work through your natural tendencies rather than against them. Think about it. Every successful habit change starts with awareness. You notice that you're always tired. You recognize you're scrolling mindlessly. You realize you keep putting off important work. That's the moment of recognition. That's self-awareness in action. So let's talk about the 4 pillars of the self-aware habit change. First, critical examination. Question your patterns. The first pillar is learning to objectively examine your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. You need to ask yourself, why do I believe this? What evidence supports it? What am I not seeing? The skill of turning your analytical mind on does yourself double duty. Not only does it help you to understand your habits, but it sharpens your thinking in every area of life. Your mind becomes a self-sharpening tool. The more you use it to examine yourself, the better it gets. Pillar number 2, self-honesty. Face what you'd rather ignore. This is where courage comes in. It takes genuine bravery to look at parts of yourself that you don't like. We're often so wrapped up in protecting our ego that we'd rather stay blind to our own shortcomings. But here's the thing. You're not fooling anyone but yourself. Others can often see what we can't or won't acknowledge. As Carl Jung put it, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. When you understand your weak points, then you can build safeguards around them. If you know you tend to be a little bit lazy about exercise, you can arrange to meet a friend at the gym. If you know you get distracted easily, you can remove temptations from your workspace before you start important work. Pillar number 3, discipline. Make self-reflection a daily practice. Developing self-awareness isn't a one-time insight. It's a daily practice. And here's where it gets interesting. The very act of committing to daily self-reflection builds the discipline muscle you need for every other habit. If you can't carve out 20 minutes to journal or reflect, how will you find the discipline for more challenging changes? The obstacle becomes the way. Each day you practice self-awareness, you're strengthening your capacity for all future habit changes. Pillar number 4, persistence. Embrace the journey, not the destination. Self-awareness isn't a destination you reach and you're done. It's an ongoing process. You'll make progress, you'll hit walls, and you'll break through, and then you'll hit new walls. Even the great Stoics, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, were still learning and growing until the day they died. When you hit resistance in examining yourself, remember, that resistance isn't the enemy. It's exercise equipment for your persistence. Each time you push through the discomfort of self-examination, you build tenacity that serves you in every area of life. Now, here's where self-awareness gets practical. Every habit is supported by a story we tell ourselves. These stories either keep us stuck or propel us forward. For habits you want to break, ask yourself, what excuses do I give myself? What am I getting from this habit that makes me want to keep it? What am I avoiding by maintaining this pattern? For habits you want to build, examine your why. What story motivates me to adopt this new behavior? Is it compelling enough to sustain me when things get difficult? Let me give you a personal example. So I've always struggled with organization and time management. The story I told myself was, well, I'm just not an organized person. That's not who I am. I convinced myself that too much structure would kill my creativity. But really, I was choosing comfortable distractions over important work because I hadn't planned my time. Once I became aware of this story, I could challenge it. I realized that better organization wouldn't kill creativity. It would create space for it by eliminating the guilt and stress of constantly falling behind. Another important part is working with your nature, not against it. Self-awareness also means understanding how you're wired and using it to your advantage. For instance, I've discovered that I respond better to external pressure than to purely internal motivation. I hate letting others down more than I hate letting myself down. Now, this might seem contrary to Stoic principles about not caring what others think, but as Marcus Aurelius noticed, we all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. If that's how I'm built, why not use it strategically? When I was writing my book with a tight deadline, I worked harder and more consistently than I ever had. The external commitment pushed me to develop writing habits that have served me ever since. The pressure became a tool for growth. Another pattern I've noticed about myself is that I love grand, sweeping gestures, but I lose steam quickly when I try to do too much at once. The discipline needed for habits is like a muscle. It needs to be strengthened gradually. This is why gym memberships spike in January and crash by March. People try to take on massive changes without building the underlying capacity. So start small. Make your bed. Get up with your alarm instead of hitting snooze. Journal for 15 minutes. Take a walk at the same time every day. Get your mind and body used to making a choice and following through on it. Finally, make being someone who keeps commitment a part of your identity, especially commitments to yourself. A commitment is bigger than a promise. It means that you're dedicated through thick and thin. When you commit to a habit and don't follow through, there's a sense of shame because you broke your word to the most important person in your life, you. Each time you keep a commitment to yourself, you build trust in your own reliability. Now, this doesn't mean you can't never change course, because if a habit isn't serving you, you really should let it go. But it should be because it doesn't serve your goals, not because it got difficult. Our habits, in a very real sense, are who we are. They either move us toward our goals or hold us back from them. The challenge is that habits are automatic patterns. They become an unconscious part of our identity. Self-awareness is what makes conscious choice possible again. Through the practice of examining yourself, your patterns, your stories, your resistances, you develop not just better habits, but better judgment and stronger discipline and deeper self-knowledge. The journey of developing self-awareness is one where the process is as valuable as the outcome. Every moment you spend examining your life is a moment you're taking conscious control of your direction. Every habit you change through awareness becomes evidence of your capacity to grow. You are not at the mercy of your patterns. With self-awareness as your foundation, you can become the architect of your own character, one conscious choice, one examined habit at a time. And that's the end of this week's Stoic Coffee Break. As always, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and thanks for listening. Also, if you haven't picked up my book, Stoicism 101, I would really appreciate it if you would. I put a lot of time and energy into this book, and I think it's a great way for you to learn these principles and to implement them in your life. Also, if you aren't following me on social media, I would really appreciate it if you would. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at stoic.coffee, or on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, TikTok at Stoic Coffee, all one word. Thanks again for listening.